In 2024, my TBR got out of control. I love having a huge unread book section of my shelves, but when the number gets too high, I start feeling very overwhelmed. Because I want my shelves to reflect the books that I absolutely love and not just a random mix of books that I have impulsively bought over the last couple of years. There are some books here that I don't even remember when I bought them, that I'm no longer interested in, and it's time to fix that problem. So in 2025, I'm challenging myself one more time to read my physical TBR, and in this specific year, I have the aim to cut it down by half. We started 2025 with 91 books on the TBR, and by the end of the year, I hope to be below 50. Follow me along on this journey as we attempt to destroy the TBR, because this is TBR Destruction Project. Hi, I'm ready to welcome back to my YouTube channel, Life Worth Reading. And welcome to the first episode of the 2025 TBR Destruction Project. Like you've heard me saying in the intro, I am in a crisis. My TBR shelf is overwhelming and I have so many books on here that I'm not even sure if I still would like to read, and that number is just stressing me out. So I had to do something about it. In 2024, I started the TBR Destruction Project, which is just me forcing myself to read my physical TBR. I pick books out of this little heart jar that I have, and then I read them, keep them, or DNF and unhaul them. The rules are simple, and the goal, as you've heard, is to reduce my TBR by 50% by the end of the year. I want to get this number below 50. So let's see if I can make that happen. When I did count my entire physical TBR at the beginning of this year, I had 95 books on my TBR, but I am not counting 4 of them, and I'm going to tell you why if you haven't seen that video. I am not counting 2 poetry collections that I have that are really long and that I like to take my time reading, so they are not going on the TBR. I also have The Artist's Way by Julie Cameron, but that is actually an exercise that takes a lot of weeks, and it's not just a book to read, it's a book to actually work on. So that's not on the TBR either. And then we have A Legend Born by Tracy Dion, because that is a book that I have read. I am going to reread it, but only near when the 3rd book comes out. So that is also not on the TBR. With those 4 excluded, we had 91 books at the start of 2025. And before this first episode, let's see how I did. I've just filmed a reading vlog, a weekly reading vlog, where I ended up reading a couple of books. I read A Curious Beginning, Trust of the Emerald Sea, and I Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman. Because I read those books, we are starting out this specific episode with 88 books on the TBR. I don't know how many books I'll be able to get through this week because I'm giving myself a week only to read these books, because I'm actually going to travel next week, which will be very bad for the TBR challenge. So at the start of the 2nd episode, the numbers will certainly be higher, but I'm not going to think about that right now. So I don't know how many books I'll be able to get to, but I think it's time to choose the first book off of the TBR. I'm really nervous about this. I finished a book yesterday and I just did not know what I wanted to read, and that's when I knew I have to film a TBR project, because I have to have someone or something pick out the book for me, because I cannot decide on a book right now. So I have almost every single book on here. The only books that are not on here are later installments in series if I haven't read the installment before. So I only have the sequel or the first one in the series, if that makes sense. So there are slightly less papers on here than there are on the shelf, but you understand that. I'm not going to pick out a 3rd in a series. So with that being said, let's pick out the first book for this vlog. I'm really nervous about this, but let's pick out the first book. Is that backwards? I can't tell. Okay, this is Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt, which is right over here. I bought this book in New York for $5. I've had it for a year and a half. I haven't really felt like reading it, but I guess the time has come for me to read this book. Also, this is where I'm putting the papers that I do for TBR Destruction Project. This is what I did last year. So I'm going to be throwing those away and I'm going to be putting the new one in. But I have read, I did other challenges that didn't involve me picking out of the jar, but from the jar, I read 3, 4, 9, 10, 11. So last year, I read 11 out of the TBR, or at least from the TBR jar, because I did a couple of other challenges. And now we're going to be putting Remarkably Bright Creatures in. So yeah, I'm really excited about this, at least to get started on a new episode of the series, and I cannot wait to tell you what I'm thinking of this book so far. I'll probably update you at the 100-page mark. And yeah, welcome to the second season of TBR Destruction Project, and let's destroy the TBR. It's time for the first update of the vlog, and fellas, it is not a good one. I think I have decided that I'm going to be DNFing Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. Here is a distracted. I don't really feel like putting it on. I read until page 115 yesterday, so I'm about like a third of the way through. And this is just okay, honestly. We are following this older main character who's in her 70s, and she is the cleaning lady for this aquarium. And her life story is very upsetting. Her son went missing, kind of died when he was 18 years old. And also her husband recently passed away from leukemia. So there's just a whole lot going on in this book, okay? And so she cleans this aquarium and she kind of strikes this friendship with a giant Pacific octopus named Marcella. So we have a couple of different POVs. We see Marcella's, and then we see our main character, Tova. And then we also get another character who is insufferable. I hate him so much. His name is Cameron. He is a man-child and I hate him with all my guts. Which makes it a little bit harder to read, because if we have like 3 POVs and I already hate one of them, it's not great. So basically it's just about, it's kind of one of those like mundane stories about how life comes together and she's striking up this friendship with an animal that she shouldn't be able to befriend. And it's just a really mundane story. Like the POV of Marcellus is interesting, but it's also just fine. Like everything in this book is just okay. I think I would end up giving this book like a low 3-star, and I just don't feel like reading it. I know what's going to happen. I know how their fate are going to intertwine, and I cannot stand Cameron. He needs to move to an island in which there are no others because he is insufferable, and I just don't care. I honestly don't care, and I cannot even think about reading 250 more pages of this. That's just not going to happen. So we have our first DNF of the year, which is fine. Like I'm never going to push myself to read a book that I don't feel like reading. It's not horrible, but I'm just not enjoying my time with it, and I don't want to read books that I'm not liking, that I'm not enjoying, and I think that's so valid. So I am definitely going to DNF this book, which means that we are going to have to pick another one. And I am kind of scared because I feel like we're starting off kind of on the wrong foot, but honestly, it's just going to leave space on the TBR for me to find other books that I'm enjoying or more interested in. So let's pick one and see if it can go better than this one. Okay, I'm going to go get it. So the book that we got is The Stray Cats of Homs by Evan Newer. This is a book set in Syria, if I remember correctly. I bought this book kind of on a whim a while ago, and I don't really know why I bought this book, to be really honest with you. But I did, and I have it. Yeah, this is about growing up in the largest, it's about Sammy's childhood growing up in the largest cities of Syria, with this country at war with itself, means that nothing is really normal. Now, the struggle of this was that this is written by, I think, a woman from the Netherlands, inspired by her husband's real life story. So that could go either really well or terribly wrong. This is a book that I've definitely lost interest in reading over the last couple of years. It's been a long time since I've bought this book, maybe 4 or 5 years, maybe even more. And I don't feel like I am interested in this anymore. But again, I'm going to be giving it a try. This is exactly what this challenge is for. And if I don't feel like reading it, it's going out as well. So, is this episode going to go well? The first episode of 2025? I honestly don't know. We'll just have to wait and see, because so far I'm also not very interested in reading this book. But I guess we'll just have to find out. So I'm going to start reading The Stray Cats of Homs today, and then I'll tell you later what my thoughts are about it and if I'm going to continue or not. It's time to give you my first update on The Stray Cats of Homs by Evan Newer. And I have read quite a little bit. Yesterday I read 60 pages, and this morning I also read about 60 or 70 pages. I'm currently on page 134. And I am enjoying this book. This is, again, the story of Sammy, who's obviously, it's a false identity. Even the author is writing under a pseudonym. And this author is recounting the story of Sammy, who is her partner today. And so basically he's just recounting his childhood, him growing up, him going off to university, him doing military service. And I'm enjoying it, but the problem that I have with this book is this is a story that is being told. So when we usually say as a criticism that things are being told, not shown, this is literally the embodiment of that, because this author is telling us the story as recounted by her current partner. So the writing literally is, and then he said this, and then he said that, and then he answered that, and then he thought that. So there are no like real nuances in this book. There's nothing for you to learn. Everything is being recounted, everything is being told. And I'm struggling a little bit with that type of writing. I feel like I'm more invested in this book because, again, it's a real life story we're trying to figure out. So I guess I could say that this is like a fictionalized nonfiction. I don't know how you call it, but I'm invested because this is the real life of someone. This is historical facts about Syria, about the governments, and it feels especially relevant now given what has recently happened in Syria and the liberation that happened there. So I'm very invested in that. But the writing is just not very good because it's just, we're being told a story that was told to the author. So I don't know, I'm feeling a little bit ambivalent because of that, because I can't feel very invested because it's just so dry sometimes. But I am enjoying it, and I have read a decent chunk. I'm hopeful that I'll make it through page 200 today, but today is actually Saturday, and tomorrow is going to start raining, and it's going to rain for the whole week. So me and my mom were like brainstorming, okay, what can we do to enjoy the good weather that we're having? So we're going to have lunch by the beach, which is going to be really, really nice. And I can't wait to, you know, also just spend the afternoon kind of away. I've still been struggling a little bit to leave my house because I don't know where to go. I'm just not very motivated. But today is going to be a good day. I can feel it. That's why I also read a lot in the morning, because I wanted to make sure that I was reading this book. I want to finish it by tomorrow at the latest. So there's a lot of reading to be done, but there's also a lot of reading that has been done. And I'm feeling okay about it. You know, like I'm feeling I'm feeling just fine about it. But yeah, I'll see you when I come back. Hopefully I'll shoot some pretty footage, and I'll see you when we get back. I know I haven't given you a lot of updates. It's just not a very good day for me, you know? It's such a gloomy day outside. It hasn't stopped raining since yesterday, and it's just really affecting my mood. I don't know why. Like, I am so moody. I am so upset. And about what? Like, about what? I have no reason to be upset. I just am. So even though I haven't given you a lot of updates, I have just now finished The Stray Cats of Homes by Evan Neuer, and I feel very conflicted about talking about this book because, again, this very unfortunately is the real life story of someone who's still alive, I think, I hope, someone who's still out there, someone who just went through the most horrific things you can imagine. And it's not just them that went through it. He is the face, he is the voice of the horrific life that just happened in Syria over the last couple of years. And it's really hard to read this book. It's very graphic, it's very upsetting. Even though you can tell that the author doesn't want it to be, it's not like the author is trying for it to be. Oh, sorry, my hair is really pissing me off. It's not like the author is trying for this book to be very graphic. It's just the things that happen. It's war, it's famine, it's starvation, it's death, it's bombings, it's everything. So it's very horrific. And I don't know how to rate this book because this is a real life story of someone. How can I rate the real life story of someone? You know what I mean? Like, what do I do with this book? And despite that, I didn't really like the writing in this. I think that this author is a pseudonym, like I mentioned, Evan Neuer. She is a Swedish. She's not from the Netherlands. She's Swedish. She's a journalist, and she met the fictional named Sammy. So he's a real person, but that's just a name that he's giving in this book to, you know, ensure his anonymity. And so she meets Sammy in Paris, and they fall in love, and he starts telling her about his life experience and what he went through. And so she thinks about writing this book. So it's what I mentioned. It's very told because this is literally a story that was told to her and she is now relaying to us. And even though it's not objectively bad in the slightest, it's also not very good. This author is not an author. It's not very poetic, and especially when reading the end, because there's a note from the author, and she literally says in it, "For the shape of the narrative, I have drawn inspiration from novels such as Khaled Hosseini's The Kite Runner, witness literature like Imre Kertész's Faithfulness, and Samar Yazbek's brave literary journalism." So I think that you can tell that she was trying to transform these real life events that were being told to her into something more inspirational, something more literary. You can tell that she tried to shape, like she mentioned, like I thought about this the whole way through the book, but when I finally reached that, okay, I was like, oh, so this is self-aware. She knows that she was trying to kind of, not really mimic is a bad word, but trying to shape the novel to be like something that she admired. And I just don't think she's very successful. I mean, I don't know. For me, if this was fiction, this is a 3. It's fine, it's good, it's impactful, but the writing really isn't that great. But this is a real life story of someone, so how can I just give it a 3 and just move on with my day? So I don't think I'm going to rate it. I might rate it on like my reading journal for my own personal sake, but I don't think I'm going to rate it on Goodreads because I just feel bad about it. What gives me the right to rate this book a 3? But it felt like a 3. If I were to separate the real life story of this man and fiction, this would be a 3 for me. But yeah, it was, at the same time, I don't want to discourage you from reading this book because it's such an important story. But again, there might be better ways to read a story like this. Maybe there are better memoirs. Maybe there are some fiction books you might read as well. So I feel really, if you can't tell, I feel really on the fence about this because I enjoyed it. I liked it. I thought it was very impactful. It was very hard to read at times. And you do, when you're reading it, you do kind of want to dissociate and say that this is fiction, but you have to constantly remind yourself that it is not. But at the same time, it's kind of awkward because when you reach the point, and thankfully it's very short, but when you reach the point where he meets the author in the book, it's so weird having the author write about him meeting her. It's kind of awkward, and I don't know, sometimes I feel like maybe this should have just been kept between them. Like, this is an act of love between them, and I don't know, I feel really bad saying that. I think that this is good. If you come across this book, I think it's worth a read just to know what it's like, a real life circumstance of what happened in Syria. But again, literary wise, it was not the best. Does that make sense? But at least that's a TBR veteran that's out of the way. I have this book for over 4 years, I think. So at least this is a TBR veteran that is just out of the way. I finally read this book. I think it might have been on my self-destruct TBR as well. So at least I finally read that one. And I liked it more than Remarkably Bright Creatures, which is also something. So that's nice. And now, somehow, it's time to pick out another book. I am literally so scared of this. I still don't know what I feel like reading. Hopefully it's a short book because I don't have a lot of time to finish this vlog. I am so scared. Oh, one fell out. Oof. Okay, so this is, you can't really tell, but this is Swimming Back to Trout River by Linda Ruy Fang. So I'm going to go get it. So this is the book, Swimming Back to Trout River. And this was a book that I actually wanted to read by the end of 2024 and I never got around to it. So I think that this might be a good pick for the rest of the week. This is also less than 300 pages, which is really nice. And it's a very entangled family story, like a family drama. It's about immigration. It's about like an intergenerational story. It's about the parents. It's about the kids. They say like it's 4 stories kind of coming together in one, but it's a little bit convoluted, the synopsis, so I really don't want to get too much into it. I'll tell you what I know about it when I do start reading it, but I actually think that this is a great choice. We are really in the kind of dramatic episode of this TBR destruction project because these are all kind of heavier books. Even though Remarkably Bright Creatures didn't seem like it, the amount of horrible things that happened to the characters in it or happened to people around them, kind of depressing. So I'm going to start reading it today and I'll tell you later what I think so far. I also have to update my reading journal because I haven't done that since DNFing Remarkably Bright Creatures. I have to put these 2 books in and count to see where we stand in terms of the number because I really don't know. But also, I forgot to mention this. I was going to mention it in the final clip, but I'll mention it now and then I'll mention it later again. I actually ended up unhauling Trust Exercise by Susan Choi. It's a book that is on the TBR destruction. It's on my reading journal. It's on the shelves, but I ended up selling it. It just, someone bought it and I was like, I flipped through the book and I was like, I really don't care. This book has been on the TBR too long. The ratings are not very good. I just don't feel like reading this book, so I got rid of it. So we are actually already 3 books down, and we are on to the 4th one, which is really, really exciting. I don't know what the original number was when we started this episode, but it feels like we're doing progress, right? It feels like we're progressing in a good way. So yeah, let's start on the third book for this vlog, and hopefully I'll be able to update you more, because it might even put me in a better mood to vlog, honestly, because I just have not been feeling myself today, but I really have to get over that. I am currently on page, wait, I forgot, 110, which is almost halfway through this book, and I am thoroughly enjoying it. I feel like I have a better grasp on what the story is about, so I can actually tell you what the story is about. And this story follows basically a family. So we have the mother, Cassandra, something like that, and the father, Momo, and they had a daughter named Junie. And this all happened after the Cultural Revolution, near the end of the 70s in China. And so they have this daughter who is actually born without legs. So she unfortunately is disabled. She has nothing below the knees, but she is obviously in everything else a really healthy child. And one day, Cassia, she decides, in the present timeline, Junie is almost turning 12, and she lives with her grandparents, Momo's parents. And they basically raised her because Momo went back to the United States when she was young. I still haven't reached that part in the past timeline, so we're kind of following two timelines, the present one and the past one. So Momo is in the United States at the moment, and with Cassia. And so Junie was raised by her grandparents, and now Momo sent her a letter saying that when she turned 12, which is going to be soon, that he was going to bring her to the United States to live with them. But she really doesn't want to, because she loves her grandparents so much and she wants to live with them forever. And in the past timeline, we followed briefly Momo's childhood, but mostly him going off to university and meeting a woman named Dawn, who really enjoys music, and she plays the violin, which then gets her in a lot of trouble when the Cultural Revolution starts. So it's a lot about the Cultural Revolution, and it's a very interesting insight into the Cultural Revolution. And so they have a brief encounter, they become friends, and then they are kind of separated, and then he meets his future wife. But we are still following Dawn's perspective after she distanced herself from Momo. It might seem more convoluted as I'm talking about it, but it's actually really simple in the book. And I'm just really enjoying the writing of this. And I don't know, I'm just having a good time. It's simple, but it's really beautiful writing as well. And I'm thankful that I picked this book up, because I really picked up this book on a whim at a thrift store. I just realized that I read two books one of the two final books that I haven't read that I picked up in New York. This is one of them. I picked this up at a thrift store. I had never heard of it, but something about it, I just really loved the cover, first of all, and the name was so intriguing. And I do love, I don't know, stories about immigration, identity, family sagas. So I'm feeling very vindicated in having picked this book up, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I'm hoping that I'll reach page 200 tonight. so that I can finish that little bit tomorrow morning, when tomorrow is the day that this vlog supposedly is going up. But yeah, I feel very good about this book and I cannot wait to continue reading it. I haven't updated you a lot today because I am going through it with my allergies. I have been having a terrible allergy day. Like, my eyes are so itchy and my whole face just hurts. And I have not been able to stop sneezing. I haven't been able to stop like blowing out my nose. It was just really bad. So I just took it easy today. I edited this entire vlog and I just read for a little bit, but I didn't do much because first of all, it's raining and thundering like crazy outside, which I hate. I wish I was one of the good girlies that's like, oh my god, thunderstorms, like the perfect environment to read. No, I hate big metal lightning falling out of the sky. Call me Chicken Little. I fucking hate it. So I'm not having a good time. But yeah, it was just raining a lot today and just really bad weather, so I didn't go out anyway. But I'm really going through it with my allergies. Hopefully tomorrow I'll be better because tonight I'm going to take my antihistamine, which I haven't taken in 3 days, which is why I'm like this today. And hopefully by taking care of that, I'm going to feel better. But yeah, right now I'm just going to read in bed. I also have some double stuffed Oreos because I don't usually snack when I read, but today I needed a snack. So I'm also going to be snacking on that. And I'm just going to be reading until I no longer feel like it. Or until I reach page 200, whichever comes first. It seems as though this episode has come to an end. I have finished my last book for this vlog, which is Swimming Back to Trout River by Linda Rui Fang, and now I'm going to give you my final thoughts on it. I ended up really enjoying this book. I think I'm going to give it a 4.25. I don't really do the quarter ratings, but if I did, maybe it would be that, because this was a really beautiful family story. It had a few flaws, which is why I'm not going to give it 5 stars, but overall I thought the writing was really beautiful. I thought the story was just really nice to read, and I wish we could have seen a bit more of some people and some relationships, but I think that what we did get was really quite beautiful, and I am so thankful that I have read this book. I think that if you're interested in family drama and those kinds of books, I think this might be a good book for you to read because I really enjoyed it. I love that we also got a disabled character. I really can't speak on the rep of not being able-bodied and missing limbs, obviously, but I think it was done gracefully, and it was so heartening to see how much Momo loved his daughter so much. Even though some people saw faults in her, he always loved and treasured her so much, which is obviously a given because he's her father, but still, it was really beautiful to read. And with that being said, I have finished the first episode of the second season of TBR Destruction Project, which is really great, and now we're going to discuss how we're doing in terms of the actual TBR. So we started this episode with 80 books on my TBR, and we are ending it with 84, which I think is pretty great. I have read 3 books. I read and kind of DNF'd Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Brown Pelt. I read The Stray Cats of Homes by Avenir, and I ended up giving it 3 stars. I mean, I'm not going to officially rate it, but that's just how I feel about it. And then Swimming Back to Trout River by Linda Rui Fang, which I gave 4 stars to. And then I also ended up unhauling Trust Exercise by Susan Choi, which means that we are 4 books down and we are at currently 84 books. I feel like that is pretty great for the first episode of this new season. As I mentioned, I'm going to be traveling this week, so I will probably be undoing all of the progress that I just did, but still, I think that I'm going to focus on the positive, which is 84 is a really great number to have. And if I continue to go down this road, I think that by half of the year, I'm going to be able to achieve my goal, which is to reduce my TBR by 50%. So basically 45 books. I hope that you had fun and that you enjoyed this episode. If you did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more bookish content, and I'll see you in my next video. I hope you have a nice day, and always remember that life is worth reading.